Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane. I am delighted to be joined by my co-host, Scott Holmes. Scott, hi.
Hey there.
And our two guests this evening, because it's evening where I am, and that is Virginia Rounds Griffiths. Hi, Virginia.
Hello.
And Carol Pilkington. Hello, Carol. Thank you both for joining us. Now, all four of us are authors in the book Gifts of Wisdom. And so, and I know Virginia hasn't got her copy with her, but that's fine. We've all been authors. And so the topic is the gifts of wisdom found within life's experiences. Before we actually go into sort of the couple of subtitles we've got for this evening, please introduce yourselves. I'm going to come to Carol first. Carol, please share a little about that.
Thank you, Sarah. So I am a metaphysical teacher, transpersonal astrologer, and spiritual counselor. And I work with individuals that are going through chronic anxiety, depression, and grief and loss. I help high achievers and business owners to be more authentic so that they're congruent inside and out.
Thank you, Carol. Virginia.
Oh, hi, everyone. My name is Virginia Rounds Griffiths, as I was already introduced by Sarah, and I'm a medical intuitive, energy alchemist, again, a metaphysical teacher as well. And in my field, I work a lot with people one-on-ones and also in group situations. And I transform and transmute any energies that are not conducive to our well-being into that which is of benefit to the individuals. Or I just, for myself, I love working on a group situation because the energy is so powerful. The healing works in seconds, and it's getting more and more so. And I don't know whether anybody else, I think, Scott, you also do similar to what I do. And it seems like the energy is ramping up and really getting within seconds. This is happening rather than, like, say, it would take us about 5-10 minutes before. But now, from my perspective, it's happening in seconds. And I just love this. That's how magical the energy is at this moment in time, and it's getting even better as we're going through this, not only this year but into the future. Do you find that, Scott, as well?
I had this weekend, I had an example. A friend of mine, he had been out of work for 2 weeks. I went to shake his hand, and he lifted his arm up like this to shake my hand because he couldn't raise his arm. And he doesn't believe. He's a very good friend of mine, but of course he rolls his eyes whenever I talk about any of this. So I said, "Can I just send you some energy?" And he says, "Yes." So it took about 3 minutes, and he turned around and looked at me. I said, "You rolled down." He said, "That's the first time I've ever felt anything like that." And he said, "I felt the energy just come right to the point, and it was like he was knitting it my shoulder." And I went, "Okay." And he started moving it. And he's like, "Oh, okay." So he said, "I wonder if I could," because we get together and we play darts. He said, "I wonder if I could," because he was throwing left-handed because he couldn't use his right. And he started throwing with his right arm. 2 hours later, I said, "How's your shoulder?" And he said, "Oh my goodness, I forgot all about it." The next day, he had complained because he was exhausted because he hadn't been able to sleep. He hadn't been able to get comfortable in sleeping because the shoulder, no matter where he went, it hurt. He texted me the next morning and said, "The first good night's sleep, I slept for 6 hours solid. The first time I've slept like that for a couple months."
Wow.
And it is absolutely amazing. And I've never had those kind of results that just happen like that instantaneous. Yeah. And I absolutely agree with you that, and I don't know that I'm all that different. Okay. And what I do is all that different, but the power of the energy coming through is much more intense.
And we know when you said I could feel the overwhelm, because that's what for us when this happens, you go, oh my gosh, is that did that really happen? But then it's the person who's telling you this story that'll give you that proof. Yeah. Anyway, I'm so sorry, Sara Jane, because I think I've just completely sabotaged.
No. And I'm just going to say hi to Sandy and Magda who have joined us. Lovely to have you with us. I'd rather mention your names rather than type. But I think, is it that people are also opening to this, even though they're not aware they're opening to it?
A combination of both, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, oh, yes. Virginia, do you want to explain?
Sorry, that's confirmation.
Oh, bless you, Virginia. Just explain, so if people see you doing it again, people aren't going to think about it, because I don't.
Sorry, yeah, that's confirmation of what is being said. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I meant why you do what you do.
Yeah. It's not me, it's spirit. They just not. Yeah.
So, okay, right. So, I love this. We've gone totally off track, but it doesn't matter, because we're here to share what we're meant to share, whatever that might be. But how and why crisis are a catalyst for awakening? And I can't remember which one of you sort of suggested that. But, well, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I remember my own wake-up call. But sort of thoughts. So let's come to you, Carol, as these two have talked so much.
Sorry.
I'm joking.
That's okay. Yeah, that is a subject matter that is near and dear to my heart. I know in my own life that when things are just going along and things seem to be going well, what I would consider well, it's not until a crisis happens that all of my negative belief systems arise and I have to confront them. And crisis can be anything that we describe it to be, whether it's a death in the family, whether it is a life-changing event, or, a career move, anything that jolts us out of our everyday
complacency,
normal reality, can feel like a crisis. And it's all in how we deal with those moments that determines the rest of what we do and who we are. And for me, crises helped me move forward. It helped me reveal to myself all the blind spots that I had with regards to what I believed myself to be, believed who I was, believed what was right or wrong, and also that I lived in that paradigm of right, wrong, good, bad. And instead of living life through the isness of what is in any given moment.
I love that term, isness. Did you coin that, by the way?
I did not. But yeah, it really puts a point on the moment, right? Isness. This is the way it is.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's a case of it's not right or wrong. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it in the end. Whereas we are so always trying to figure out what I did wrong and what she did right, and we compare these as well as we're going through life. And there's no such thing. And I just love it when we can get to that point where we know this. We know it, we feel it, we encompass it, and we live it. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. More, I always tend to think that it's moral relativism. Like, is this better? Is this good? Where do we put this? How do we, instead of, in my world change, when I just allowed accepted and said, oh, that's what it is. Well, that's good. Well, maybe it is. Well, that's really bad. No, maybe. So the gray, okay, and being in the present, nothing's truly black and white, right? Nothing is truly good or bad.
Yep.
And living in the gray and living present and allowing what is all of a sudden the emotions come away from that, and you can be fully present in your current self and how you are, how you view things, how you see things, and just allow. And that's when I work with clients, as you all do. That's where I'm trying to get them to be able to get to, is that position of having so much less going on in their mind, going into their heart, and being able to see things without all the shades that we put on our eyes in their perceptions.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we should get out of the black and white, and we shouldn't even be in the grey. It's time we lived in full colour. It really is time we started living in full colour. You look outside the window and it's not black and white. Even on the greyest days, it's not black and white. And so it really is sort of live in colour. Let it brighten up your life. You go to some countries and everything is an absolute blaze of colour. Think of the springtime and we're going to be coming into that in the Northern Hemisphere. Think of the springtime, everything starts to come to life. And then the summer, the beauty of all the colours of the flowers and the leaves on the trees, etc. Nature isn't black and white. Life is about being full colour. But crisis and a catalyst. It was what happened to me, and then the resulting everything that went with that, including a broken marriage. But it was sort of what I call the wake up call. But it wasn't just a broken marriage. The company I was working for got taken over. That was all on top of the broken jaw and 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. But I don't know why I wasn't even in this realm of belief at that point in time. But I just saw it, at work. They were aware that my marriage had broken up, and my boss sort of said to me, Sarah, no, I said, if you want people to be positive about the fact the company's being taken over, you just send them to me, because I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. Just send them to me, But the company was here. I was living in Northampton. The company that took us over was in Bournemouth. I'm in Bournemouth. I've got a sister here in Bournemouth. Why was I going to be upset about all of it? I wasn't. It was almost a support of what, but it's that isness, isn't it, that you were talking about? I could have seen that as, oh, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? Instead, it was just like, great. It's helping me to move forward. It's about the energies we bring to what is going on, isn't it? How we're perceiving them. Are we going to look at it as being good, or are we actually going to see the positive? Look at it as being bad, or are we going to see the positive in it? And for some reason, I was just seeing the positive in everything that was happening, probably for the first time in my life.
Yes, because when you take into consideration, Sarah, that the majority of people don't react that way. You hear the word I'm saying, react. Yeah. You responded, different story. Reaction is usually in an emotional manner. And Carol, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. So this is completely, they will go off the scale. Their whole lives will fall apart. And then we come back to what we were talking about, limiting beliefs, because oh my God, I've got no job. So therefore, how am I going to pay for my rent? How am I going to pay for my food? What am I going to be doing? And all this going on in there. And so, yes, you were very fortunate that you saw it from that viewpoint. Yeah. A lot of people don't do that. I would say probably, oh no, Carol, you tell me, probably 95% of people don't look at life that way. Yeah.
More than that even. I'll give you another example of what happened to me one time. I came out to my car and found that all of my windows had been smashed and there was vandalism in the neighborhood. And I looked at it, went back in my house, and started making the phone calls to get it fixed so that I can move on with my day and my life, instead of standing there in shock and how can anybody do this? Why is this happening to me? You know, something like that would just completely throw a person ordinarily off kilter.
Yeah.
And given the work that I had been doing and have been doing my whole life, I saw it as, oh, something happened. I have to take care of it. I'm a problem solver. I have to go and figure out what steps need to be taken next to get this, you know, fixed so that I can continue on. And ordinarily, it would ruin somebody's day completely. But it's a moment in time of something happening and something to be taken care of in the present time. It is an instance. There's no story to create around it. This happened. I have to do something to get it fixed. I did it and went on with my life. So, you know, we have momentary crises and then we have life-changing crises that wake us up to how we deal with life in general.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott.
Interesting. So we talk about times when we became aware, right? Where those moments in our life when we understood that we were not alone, that we were not helpless, that we could be more. And I think every single person has that story. We're here with Gifts of Wisdom, but Sarah, you're putting together a book for a number of authors of I didn't become selfish.
I became
harder to manipulate. And what a concept that is, because that whole process of turning inward, of becoming more self-sufficient, of becoming more of yourself, really changes your perspective. It changes how you view life. It changes how you react to everything that comes your way. Much like Carol had said, is that, and I'm the same way with something that happened is, you know, somebody wants to know, why did this happen to me? Who did this? I want to know who did this. I want to know, and I want the police here, and I want them brought to justice. I'm like, okay, but you're still not going to be able to drive your car. And so you're not really seeing things as they are. And it's really interesting to be able to have, for you, those of you watching, those of you who are going to be watching this, you have three beautiful, elevated women right here who get it. They understand. And they show that vulnerability and compassion and understanding are not weaknesses. They are the ultimate strength. And that love is the most powerful energy that we know of. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Just confirming your words.
I noticed. But and we come through that time and time and time again as we do healing, as we help people. We find that love, when we throw love at it, things really do change our perspective.
Isn't that a Jennifer Sproul comment? Throw love at it.
Oh, it absolutely is. I use it now all the time.
Who's one of the other authors and is going to be on the program as well in sometime next month, I think. But Scott, you know, you've said three ladies, but what's really important here is that we bring in the masculine energies. Guys, you know, this is as important for you. You know, it's not all about women. It's about all
Balance.
the energies, the masculine. Oh, sorry, Virginia. The masculine and feminine energies, because we're all equally important. We really are all equally important, and we all have these things that we go through. When you think of Neil Donald Walsh and what he shared about his life before he wrote Conversations with God, and he was living on the streets. So, there are the masculine energies who have shared their vulnerability and the things that have happened to them. That was another wake-up call, a crisis. People have it with ill health, they lose jobs, they lose their homes. The many, many different stories for many different people. And eventually each has understood why those things have happened, because they've helped us to move forward in our life, to take control of our life and not let others control it for us, or the monkey mind, the ego mind, sort of as well. It's not just about sort of, because we have that ability to say no to others. That is, we are allowed to do that. It's just that sort of sometimes the protection mechanisms, well, no, you can't say no to that person. Yeah, you can, but you've just got to have the courage to do that.
Standing in your power, Sarah.
Yeah, 100%.
Basically, that's what it is, standing in your power. And each person is a sovereign being. And we should all be able to do that. But life throws us lemons, and sometimes we don't know how to make lemonade of that, yes? And so therefore, we get, and also not to mention, we also got to go back into programming. We've all been programmed in different ways. Some of us not so very well, and some of us have been very, very lucky to not have to go through a lot of trauma. And so, yeah, I fully agree with you. But again, it's about standing in your power. And I loved it when you said, Scott, because you know what I thought? Goddesses, yes.
I didn't mean to insult you by calling you beautiful women. I do apologize.
Don't be silly. I don't take it.
We all have that.
I'll take it, Scott.
Yeah, me too. I'll take it. We're old school. We don't mind that kind of stuff. We take it as a compliment. Thank you.
I do truly hope so. But it's that balance, and you're right, Sarah. It's that balance within ourselves of the masculine and feminine. And when I deal with men, and I have to tell them, in order to be a better man, you have to get into your sacred feminine. I've gotten my nose pushed in a little bit, because they truly don't understand, because they're how they see masculinity is kind of turned on its head. And so I found that in dealing with men, that they are so divorced from feelings. There is that kind of disconnect. And it was with me for years that I didn't, if somebody asked me what I felt, I couldn't, I don't know. If somebody asked me what I thought, I could go on for 2 hours. So that whole sacred feminine, that whole understanding of the balance within us creates these conversations. It creates what we can do now.
Yeah, absolutely. Carol. Oh, yourself? We can't hear you.
It's an interesting dichotomy of what we've absorbed and over the conditioning that we've absorbed, where the masculine is thinking, the feminine is feeling, and it really needs to be integrated. When we are integrated, there's feeling and thinking, no matter whether you're a man or a woman. And when we can integrate and not worry about those labels, then we know that we're whole.
Absolutely.
It's the balance, isn't it? It's the balance of the male, female.
Yeah. My problem was, as a people pleaser, I was thinking and never allowing myself to feel. Sort of, and as a child, we were sort of always taught, I wants, don't get. So if anybody ever asked me what I wanted, I can't tell you what I want. because I was always told I wouldn't get it anyways. Yeah, but it's terminology.
Yeah.
And that terminology can really affect you. Sort of
Programming. That's programming, Sarah Jane. Yeah, from a very small age, young age. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, and so what is the actual crisis? Is the crisis what actually puts that programming in place? And what we call a crisis is that freedom, is that opening, that giving us the ability to say, all right, I'm not having this anymore. Things have got to change. And the universe helps those things to change. I really came to understand that I wouldn't have been able to get myself out of the situation I was in if it hadn't been for the broken jaw and the 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. I was so exhausted. I couldn't keep all of it going. I just couldn't do it.
Stopped you in your tracks.
Absolutely. It was just like, no, this has got to go. That's got to go. Actually, with the job being taken away as well, it was just like everything just went. And it was just like, but for some reason, I was able to see it as a gift. But maybe that's because I was just so unhappy, and I've got a friend, and he sort of said, he can remember things happening in his childhood and whatever. And he says, well, surely you can remember. I said, no, I have so few memories, because why would you want to remember if you were so unhappy? And so I suppose in some respects, because the things that happened to me were so very early in my life, I was already in that mega negative for too long. And something came along that actually helped to pull me out of that. And I didn't understand any of it, but I just knew the way I was going. I wasn't going to sink. It was time to fledge my wings and sort of take control and be in control of my own life.
So let me just put it this way, Sara Jane. At that particular point in time in your life, that catalyst had to happen.
Oh, yes.
Because you were just, it was like there was nowhere there for you to go except up. So in another way of looking at it as well, your soul, it was your soul's journey for you to be pulled out of that, because you had a bigger mission.
Yeah.
Right? And that door had to close for you to go forth
100%.
and become the Sara Jane that you are now. So, yeah. There's so many different aspects to this, right? And we could be, wow, it's really quite exciting when you think about all of that. But now saying that, it's almost like I'm preaching to the converted. Does that make sense? There's those people that I'm hoping that will listen to this and understand or get a feeling about life isn't as hard as it's maybe feeling for them at this moment in time. That there is, I always used to look at this way, man. Whenever anything happened and I really went down over there, okay, so this far down right now, there's only one way to go, and that's that way. And I used to just go, okay, yes. It wasn't easy. We had to take the steps to get to that place, but that was always my adage. It can't be any worse than where I am now. It's got to be that way. And so I used to, okay, let's do that. So, yeah, so I think we've all been through a crisis of some kind, and it's helped us to get back into where we were meant to be. This is what I think happens. We get so down, and things happen to us for a reason. You girls, and Scott know what I'm talking about. This is a necessity for us to wake up and smell the roses, because there's a bigger picture, the reason why we came, our purpose. And that's my understanding anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes crisis just keeps piling up on top of one another, and I call that the law of accident. When life just continuously happens to us and we don't pay attention to the signals that we're given to be able to use them as lessons and to learn about ourselves from them. We just are in a wave of life pushing and pulling us from pillar to post. But when we can use the crisis as a tool to learn more about ourselves and what we're here to do and who we are, that is, priceless. But a lot of people go through life, one crisis after another, just feeling downtrodden. And when we live that way, we never feel that we can, like there's any other way to be, any other way to live. We are just pawns in a game, so to speak, versus players in a game. So we're just pushed and pulled by life. But crisis, for all of us, some are called to use those situations and those periods in our life to wake up. But it doesn't happen automatically.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, having through my mid-20s to my mid to late 40s, being in survival mode the entire time, having things happen one after another. When you are afraid that to be able to look up because you're afraid something else is falling on you, and you're struggling just to keep your head above water to be able to breathe once in a while, it's very hard to equalize, to balance, to do anything other than survive. And you do everything you can to get there. I've been very, very lucky to be able, after everything and my wife passing, to be able to be put in a place where I am on a very calm sea and chaos is at a minimum. And even when it comes up, it's not chaos anymore. Life does not happen to me anymore. Life happens for me. And I see everything in the positive vein. Doesn't matter what comes my way. It all just happens and is. It's that isness. It's that ability to just stay in balance on a daily basis. That takes hard work, by the way. I don't want anybody to ever think it doesn't, okay? Every morning I get on my mat. Every morning I get on my mat. Every morning I meditate. Every morning I do yoga.
Yep.
Every morning I do those exercises that bring me that clarity. But you got to do it every day. It doesn't just magically happen.
It's a dedication.
It's dedication to self-improvement, self-awareness, to coming into yourself. And it takes constant learning, constant changes, and accepting those changes. That's not easy. And most people, by the way, change is a very dirty word.
Yes, that's true. Because that's because of being in comfort zone. And that's where we want to be all the time. Comfort zone. But guess what? And we're talking about, this is the catalyst you're talking about, Carol, right?
Right.
Something comes and goes, boom, and throws you out of your comfort zone. And so then you go, you're floundering in all kinds of ways, especially emotionally, because you don't know how to handle it. And it's really interesting because, I'm going to go back to the muscles and the muscular skeletal, right? So I often tell my clients, look, you've just been adjusted, right? You've just been realigned. So guess what's going to put you out of comfort zone is your muscles, and they're going to be screaming or something. They don't want to do it, right? Just like us, we don't want change. So the same thing happens, in the musculoskeletal system when we change things like that. But yeah, the other thing that I was listening to, especially when you were talking, Carol, is we must also take into account that our thoughts create our reality. Yeah. So it's from there that we are then creating. So today, my thoughts will be creating my tomorrow. Right? So if we can, as you said as well, Scott, if we can stay in that positive vein, you're already creating your tomorrow to be positive. but it's not an easy place to get to. So yeah. Gee, my hands! I'm always doing this, aren't I? Everybody else's hands are like, oh,
very expressive, and that's okay.
It's an ism. It's an ism.
I'm another one of those that uses my hands.
Yeah. I must have had an Italian lifetime or something once upon a time.
They said, if you tied your hands behind your back, would you be able to speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you've got to do this.
Yeah, exactly. But I was sort of thinking, this came to me sort of quite some time ago now. Our comfort zone. To step outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Where? So they're saying yes to what I'm about to say. To step outside of our comfort zone is to step back into ourselves. And there's that saying, nothing grows in your comfort zone. And so everybody keeps talking about change, but actually, isn't it about growth?
Evolving.
Change.
Evolving.
It's about us growing. We're going from where we were to further into who we are meant to be, the person we come down here to be. With getting outside of our comfort zone is about sort of shedding all the stuff everybody's told us that we are and who we should be and all that stuff, all that rubbish, that trash. It's shedding all that. It's peeling all the layers of that stuff off to find who we are underneath. And so those layers are about getting rid of the comfort zone. With my ex, bless him, I referred to the fact that we were living in parallel sort of lines. Sort of his was lined with rose petals, mine was lined with rose thorns. And it got so blooming uncomfortable that it was time I got out. But it had to get to that point because my comfort zone was so uncomfortable, I could not do it anymore.
Hence the catalyst, as Carol's talked about. Yeah,
absolutely. But self-limiting beliefs, I know we've touched on these. And the cost, the silent saboteur. Yeah, and I know we've...
Sorry.
Oh, no, Virginia, don't apologise.
It's more of a Tourette's almost.
It looks like. Don't say that, Scott.
No, it's not.
Oh, Carol,
Sorry.
we've lost the video. Hope we've still got you.
But it's. I don't even notice it anymore either when you're doing that. But
somebody actually saw Scott. Somebody actually saw like a lightning bolt coming down through my crown. That's what they do.
It would be nicer if they did it with less enthusiasm. I
know. But it's really interesting because talking about the energies, right? As these energies are going forward, this is getting more and more prevalent and more stronger as well. Anyway, sorry, you were talking about whatever, Sarah. Forget about me. I'm just
no. But it is. It's about us growing, isn't it? And people keep using this word change, but we haven't got to change. We've just got to grow beyond where we are. We've got to peel away those bits of the onion or whatever they want to get rid of the things that are no longer us or never actually were us. They were diktats. But I think self-limiting beliefs come from different perspectives, don't they? They come from what other people have said to us.
No, they come from programming from when you were a child.
Yeah,
that's huge. That's huge.
But it's also, for me, the child thing is the ego mind the monkey mind is meant to be our protector. And it's protected as a child. The problem is we're adults. It's taught us well, and it doesn't need that role anymore. It's time to change its role, and sort of say, now it's time, and I've said sort of, change it to being the personal assistant to the heart, so that it's helping make our heart choices happen rather than being the niggling little what's it in the back of our minds at this time. What are you?
Watch that finger. Watch that finger. Sorry. It was saying it all.
And yes, but at least I'm not pointing at people.
No, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
You're being so serious.
I love it's serious, yes, but I love the fact that we're being able to have a sufficiently light-hearted conversation about this, with the hope that people will listen and they'll see the fun and know that we are serious about it, but we can share it in a way that hopefully will speak to more people than, this is what's happened to me, that's what's happened to me, this is what, because that's boring. We're meant to have laughter in our lives. And I love that we've got so much of it in this program. I really do.
Miss Carol.
She's so quiet. Isn't it lovely? So at least one of us is.
Well, I just like to hear a person speak and listen to them fully before I chime in. So I apologize if that seems quiet.
You're doing the right thing, Dom.
I've just been trained that way. I think that we take ourselves very seriously. Life is serious, but we don't have to take ourselves seriously.
That is so true. We talk about change, and my sister, next oldest, and my parents lived in the same house for 55 years. My sister moved into a house and didn't change the wallpaper that was on in their kitchen. And 37 years later, she still hasn't changed the wallpaper in the kitchen. She does not like change. So when I said that I actually welcomed it and liked it, she said, "You can't possibly like that. Nobody likes change." And I just said, "No, I do." Mm-hmm. And because when you're younger, change is every day. You learn something new. You're no matter what your age, you're always learning something new. Hopefully, you're not just sitting in this land, which is, by the way, very dull, very boring, I find. And there are changes going on. My father, who was 87 years old, looked at me and said, "Why do I have to change? I've been doing the same things for 80 odd years. Why do I have to do anything different?" I said, when you were 7 years old, you didn't own a car. When you were 7 years old, there were no televisions. When you were 7 years old, all of these things that you touch, the telephones, the mobile phones, everything that you're touching, you had to learn. You had to change in order to do that. So don't tell me you're doing the same exact thing. You do change. You just choose not to change your habits. And that's where the biggest movement that I found in dealing with clients is changing their habits. The things that they were always taught. I eat Cheerios every morning for breakfast. Well, why would you do that? Do you ever change that? No, I just eat Cheerios with milk, and that's it. And so for 75 years, I'm going to only eat Cheerios because that's what I was taught. Well, no, that doesn't happen. I don't know about you, but I don't eat the same thing every 2 days in a row. I change it all up. I constantly am looking for something different. And therein lies the difference between my sister and I. Same house, same household, same everything. I, of course, am the black sheep because I had advocated change. And I was told that it was not a good thing. That was my conditioning. Change was not a good thing. You do things the way we taught you. You should do it this way. And that's the only way there was. Well, take it from a raised Protestant, I went to a Catholic, and I'm now a fallen Catholic and consider myself more of a Buddhist. So it's constantly looking and changing and growing. And, it's the snake changes his skin because they grow, and the skin that they have doesn't fit them anymore. So it's that constant shedding of skin to be able to grow, to be able to change, to be able to see things from a different perspective. And for me, that's, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm definitely not the same person I was 20 years ago. And I've changed and I've grown, and I thank God for that. I really am so grateful that I have, because I was insufferable to live with as a younger man, and I now am much more pleasant.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
No.
We're talking about day-to-day change a lot of times, but the deeper inner change that happens as we grow, as we become more self-aware. It's not about us changing anything. Change happens. The more self-aware we become, the more conscious effort that we put into being aware of something, change follows. So, yes, we can change the color of our hair, we can change where we live, but that doesn't change who we are inside. Those kinds of changes happen organically as we become more self-aware of self-limiting beliefs, as you talk about, Virginia. And the more aware that we become of these limiting beliefs, choice happens. We don't have choice until we become aware of something. We're just pushed and pulled from pillar to post, right? Like we were talking before. But when we become aware of something, in that moment, change already is happening because we are becoming aware of something. Awareness brings change just organically.
And I think we've had a dog sharing a message with us in the background as well. I've been hearing a dog barking. I'm just thinking, okay, there's a message in there for us. It's a different level.
Oh, that's so funny. And another thing that I just want to add here into this whole mix is this essence of curiosity, right? As you start to grow, you become curious of all kinds of things that are happening around you. And so therefore, and Carol, you called it awareness. From my understanding, I call it consciousness, because a lot of times people can become aware, but only in that moment in time. Something's distracted them and they go off and completely forget about that thing, right? But when you're conscious of something and then you really make it your own and you really delve into it, then really that's when the change happens. And I'm talking about the internal change as well here, because that's where it needs, from my perspective, until such time as I understood the internal change, I was living that life of, things were happening to me and not for me. It was just, I was on a roller coaster like everybody else. But when I've had that consciousness and then I started to follow that, that's when the change really happened. And that's where you start to, and it's really, when I have my clients or when I do my courses, and I say, look, go to the heart, because your heart is the way forward. The heart is the most important thing. Once you learn and you start to think with the heart, the ordinary left brain, right brain thinking flies out the window, because this is where you know that your true answers lie in your heart center. And anyway, I'm just blabbing. Sorry.
I think thinking about sort of growth, change, everybody, there are so many rules and regulations around things, and so many people have done things the same way for so long, and it worked for a while, but they keep doing it in that same way. And I'm just thinking about all the summits they used to do brilliantly. They really aren't doing as well as they used to do, because people I got tired. There are just so many summits out there of different things. There's brilliant information in them. I'm not saying there isn't, but the summit format is getting a little bit old hat. The way, when it came to setting up Gift of Healing TV, there were people saying to me, oh, you need to have this in place, that in place, that in place, that in place, that in place. And it was just like, I've got a platform. I haven't even got a website at the moment, but I've got my own personal website. I can put a page on that. I've got people I know. I can get guests. I'm just going to start. And that's what I did. I didn't have everything in place that everybody told me I'd got to. And it's still going over 10 years later. So if there is something that people wish to do, it's don't think that you've got to have everything in place before you start, because you'll never start. Nothing will be perfect. You know, maybe it wasn't brilliant the way I started it, but you know what? It's still going. So, you know, sort of, and that's, so are you going to do things the way everybody tells you you've got to? Or are you going to be, and therefore it's creating a limiting belief within yourself. I can't do it that, oh no, I've got to do it the way everybody else does it. The only way it'll work. There are many different ways we can do things. And so, and I've just taken on this thing. I'm going to do the publication of this book. And no, it's not going to be a paperback, but it is going to be an ebook and an audio in its own peculiar way, because it's not necessarily going to be the same way everybody else does it. But
so, Sarah, sorry, darling, sorry. How many people have you got? How many authors have you got in the book?
It's about 30.
Lovely. Nice.
So, but this is about, have we got to follow what everybody else does? We can listen to what other people do, but I've had this for years. You know, in different companies I've worked for, I've been warned about another member of staff as I've joined the company. I've listened to what they've said, but I have gone in there and I have taken them as I have found them, not as I've been told they've been. And that made massive a difference in 2 companies I went and worked for. If I had listened to what other people had said, I could have had real problems. But by being open to how the 2 of us were going to connect, and one of the particular guy, he worked in another part of the company. He was so helpful. We got on like a house on fire. We could really have a good laugh. If I'd listened to the individual whose job I went into, but they obviously didn't get on, but we did. So it's not listen to what others say, but be open to how things speak to you and how things feel right. We're going to make mistakes, but I don't think of them as mistakes. I see them just as a stepping stone. It's just, you know, sort of a stepping stone to the next bit. You know, we don't have to carry them around as mistakes. They're just a learning curve. So, Scott, you wanted to say something?
I was just waiting for you to finish. That's all. So all of us have suffered at one point or another from imposter syndrome, depending on what we were doing, what we were presented with. What makes us professionals in what we do, what makes us experts in what we do, is experience. Just experiencing and being open to learning, to understanding, to constantly being open and conscious of ourselves first, but then of other people and what they can do to help themselves improve. And all of us, I think, in our own ways, allow them to come back into themselves, allow them to come back into and find their journey, to find their path, to be able to navigate this life in this 3D form that we have. And it's wonderful to see these perspectives, to hear the voices, different voices, and we all get to the same place. We just use different words, different modalities, and slightly different ways and experiences that we've found that work for us. So that's the really neat thing about all of the work that we do. And someone who connects with one of us may not connect with someone else. You have, Sarah, you have 30 voices talking about the same subject. That is absolutely amazing. And I'll bet for anybody who takes on that audiobook, they're going to find at least one or two people that speak to them, either through their story or how they see it. And that's what's so important.
But I think with gifts of wisdom, the one thing that sort of very much sort of came to me was, it's not necessarily the story so much as the feelings that people have. So when we share our feelings around things that have happened to us, how many people actually really resonate with the feelings, even if their story is totally different?
Mm.
And it's the feelings, it's how things made us feel. And, you know, sort of, and that's what really speaks to people, is the fact that we understand how they have been feeling, they are feeling. We may not understand the story, but we have got an empathy. And I think that's the important thing, is there are folks out there, considerably more than us, because there were 22 in that book. There are folks out there who get it and are not alone. And I think that's the important thing. We've got a few minutes left. So sort of Carol and Virginia. Carol, any final thoughts that you would like to share before we close? And I'm going to put both of your website addresses in the chat, and I'll put it under the video. I'll put them under the video as well.
I think one of the biggest challenges to change and what we derive from crises is being afraid of the unknown. And when we're in my journey, it took me a very, very long time to not fear the unknown, from getting on a plane and not knowing the area that I was going to, and fearing, well, once I get off the plane, where am I going to go? How am I going to know where to go? What, you know, everything's new. I don't know this terrain, this landscape, to what's going to happen tomorrow. We get so anxious and fearful about not knowing what's next. And I went on a trip one time to a resort. It was, they had all kinds of classes there. And one of the classes was being blindfolded and being led by a partner down different terrains. And we couldn't speak to one another. And my life changed in that moment, because I had to trust the partner that was leading me throughout this maze of terrain, and just allow myself to be led. And when I did that, it changed my world, because I really began to understand that we could never know what's going to happen in any given moment. And I began to embrace the unknown and not to fear it, and to actually approach it with wonder, like children do. They have no idea from one moment to the next what's going to happen. And they are always living in the now. And so it was getting back into that place of appreciating now and approaching the unknown with wonder and magic and mysticism, and appreciating that whatever happens, I know what to do. It's that inner knowing that you were talking about before, Virginia. We have an inner knowing that we don't rely on often enough, but that workshop helped me move into that space of appreciating what I don't know.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Carol. Virginia.
Yeah, you know, just picking up on where Carol was talking earlier about fear, because fear is we understand that we come from one of two places. You either come from love or you come from fear. And the majority of people on the earth plane right now, they're coming from a place of fear, because that's their programming from a very young age, if not while they were in the womb still. They are taking on the fear of their parents and all the worries, whatever it is happening. So that fear it holds us back from being who we are. And now, unlike Carol, I have never been fearful of anything. And I don't say this as a comparison. It just is the way my life has unfolded. I've always been, and I went to school with Irish nuns, and their thing was, you're a bold person, right? There was always like, Virginia, you're such a bold girl. In other words, I was naughty. But I've always thought and stepped out of the box. That's just the way my life has been. I've not understood fear. And so, Carol, to hear you speaking like that, it really makes me understand how the majority of people are coming from that place. Whereas when I went to Ireland in 2014, we just got on the ferry, went to a place, and that's it. We just rented a place and set up a place there. I was there for 1 year, and I loved it. I didn't even know anyone. But that's the kind of thing that I will do, because, and I think I might have mentioned this the last time we were talking, that I come from the adage of I go where angels fear to tread. That's me, and I don't say that from an egoic thing at all. That's just the way I've always been. And so for me to try and understand or get into Carol's that kind of fear, it's quite humbling. So thank you, Carol, for showing that, for voicing your experience.
Thank you.
Scott, any final words?
Wow. I hope anybody who watches this really thoroughly enjoys it. There is an awful lot thrown at everybody, and I am thrilled to be able to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to each one of you. I've put Virginia and Carol's website addresses in the chat. I will make sure all of our website addresses are underneath the video on YouTube. If you're watching that, you'll be able to find them there. Thank you to each and every one of you. It has been a real pleasure, and I've had such fun with this. So thank you very much indeed. Next week, I'm being joined by Jessica Taylor, and she's going to be sharing a journey through theology, unveiling the jewels of a spiritual awakening. So if that interests you, intrigues you, please join us for that. In the meantime, folks, take care, be safe, stay well. Love, peace, and light. Namaste, sweet souls. Bye.
Wow. Thank you.
Bye.